Hello everyone, if you're here today you are curious about how AOB scripting works. I will be going over the basics. For this example I've chosen Druglord 2, so let's right click the exe, hit run as administrator. We'll have to install it, hit yes, and then hit play. So let's go ahead and get a new game started. First off, we need to attach the Cheat Engine exe to it. So there we go. First thing we're gonna do is we'll see about making an AOE script for our cache. Do a regular scan like you normally would for it. And this time it looks like we have two addresses. That's fine. We can play around with them, see what's what. Let's go to places, go to shopping, go to our knife, and let's go as far to change this to a bunch of 9s, see what happens when we buy a knife. Alright, so we did find our address. Let's sell that knife back. With the address we have found, what we want to do is right click it, find out what writes to this address, hit yes to attaching the debugger, and let's see what this does when we purchase the knife again. Alright, so we have this instruction here. We can go ahead and hit stop on that, highlight it, hit show in disassembler, holding control, and press A. So here we have the auto assemble window. What you want to do is click the template drop down and go to AOB injection. Hit OK. And for most cases, this is okay to leave this as inject, but you will run into a lot of problems if you have multiple AOB scripts and you don't change that. Some of them might, be stuck in the enabled option where you have to close the game out just to disable them. I'm going to go ahead and call this just cache. We won't want to have that issue, so I recommend, doing that, making those all unique, different from your other AOB scripts. So what we're going to focus on here is this instruction right here, this MOV and the Druglord 2 exe, all that stuff. Think of this like algebra. This thing at the end here, that's a variable. The move statement is like saying A is equal to 5. Well, you've just made A equal to 5, so that's basically how that works. So let's say you want to do something like every time we purchase a weapon, you want to make it add a bunch of cash to your current amount that you have. What you would do is you would do an add statement, space, EBP, comma, and then I'm going to just do a bunch of 9s. So I'm going to assign this to our current cheat table, name it cache. So what I've just done was I found the instruction, what the instruction is to the game every time we purchase a weapon. The game is being told to do something in assembly. So I've altered that. Now every time we buy a weapon, instead of it taking money away, it should give us money. Let's find out what happens when we buy this pistol. So as you can see, we've got a lot more money than what we originally had. And that's your very, very basic AOB script. So I'm going to be repeating this, and you can follow along as well if you've got the game. And we can figure out things like our health, and we can figure out the amount of drugs we have. So let's go ahead and go back into shopping. Let's get ourselves a weapon other than the knife. Let's get this area disruptor because it's a weapon and it'll give us a lot of money instead of taking it away. We'll go ahead and get some ammunition for it. We'll do an infinite ammunition script as well. So let's go ahead and buy some drugs. Let's do our drug script first. So we got 10 units of cocaine. Let's just sell 1. Do a scan for 9. Alright. So here's what we're looking for. What we want to do is the same procedure, find out what writes to it. And we're going to find what instruction changes, or what it does when we sell cocaine or any kind of drug. So there's our instruction, but let's go as far to, edit that and make it do what we want to do instead of what the game's originally supposed to be doing. So hitting show and disassembler, Control A for auto assemble, AOB injection. We'll call this drugs. Alright, so you may notice this one has 2 lines underneath the code section. Let's assume that it's going to be this one that we're focusing on, the first line here. So it's moving whatever this is into that variable. Now we can do 2 things. We can do a move statement, which is basically saying, ECX is equal to whatever number you want it to be, or we can do an add statement. So every time we sell drugs, it continuously adds on to our amount of drugs that we have. So to do that, we'll do an add statement. ECX, comma. And watch out about putting such a high number here, because a lot of games you can do what I call rollover, which you'll have like a positive number, and if you go too far, it'll roll over into a negative amount, which will usually cause the game to glitch out. Other problems will arise as well. But if we wanted to, we could have left that as a move statement instead of doing an add, so every time we sell drugs, it's always equal to whatever number you want it to be. It never decreases, it never increases, it always stays at that number. So we'll hit X on that, close that out, we'll call this drugs, our little script. And let's go ahead and enable it. Let's find out what happens when we sell some drugs. I'll just sell 1. So now, instead of having however many we had, now we have 39,000 whatever amount, but it obviously increased. Let's see what happens if we do it again. So it is kind of like a multiplier. It continuously adds up each time we sell 1, and it just continuously adds up. We could probably sell 2 or more and get away with it. It looks like we can. But each time we just sell 1, it multiplies up. That's it for the drugs. Let's try finding something like our health. So I have no idea what it is because it's not represented by a value, it's by a bar. And looks like we have to get rid of these drugs to continue. Alright, great. We got the SWAT team, so let's see if we can lose some health. I'm going to do an unknown initial value scan. There we go. See if we can lose some more. Now I have all these addresses, and the great thing about this memory scan option, I could have skipped all of these and cut them all out. I don't need all these addresses here. What I'm looking for is something that has something similar to the addresses we currently found. Notice the first one we found, it's 0042. Let's see if we see anything like that in here. I do not see anything similar. Let's keep losing some health. Maybe we'll find something. Alright, so our health increased. Alright, so this thing is probably our value because it's green, it's never going to change. So let's go ahead and change that to 100. Obviously it was, so let's get into a fight. Repay the loan shark. Great, here we go. Let's find out what writes to our health address. Alright, so now we've got this instruction. Same procedure. Highlight it, show in disassembler, Control A for auto assemble, click template drop down and go to AOB injection. I'm going to take inject and just call it health and hit OK. As I said before, you don't want to keep all your scripts with that same variable. So what we want to do is take a look at this, and the same thing, it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it, depending on what you're wanting the game to do. Now, do you want the game to be stuck at 100? You would use a move statement, EAX, comma, 100. That would freeze our health at 100, whether we got hit or whatever happened in the game to our health. Now, if you wanted to add by 100 and go over 100, you would use an add statement. Now, if you're crazy, you could use a decrease statement, which means every time you get hit, you're instantly dead. So let's go ahead and stick with the add statement. We'll assign that to our table as well. We'll call this health and hit OK and inject it. So here's the value or the address we found earlier. Let's see what happens to it when we take some damage. Now, as you can see, it's 329. It's clearly adding more health points. Problem with this adding statement on health is it could eventually cause the game to crash. It could wind up adding so much health that the game doesn't know how to handle it, and it'll cause a crash. So move statement might have been better. Or you could just comment this line out like that, and you could keep it like that, and you don't even need this line at all. The game will go to this instruction every time it gets hit. It won't know, what to do. It's being told basically to do nothing. So let's go ahead and close that out. And let's find something for our ammunition. We got 17 pistol bullets. As I said before, notice how these codes are sharing like the same few digits in their address. This thing right here will save you a headache in the long run if you use it. Looks like it's 0042. Traditionally, I use the first 3, but I will use the first 4 in this situation. So let's go ahead and do a scan for 17. And as you can see, now we only have 8 compared to like millions. That's way better results. It means you'll find your cheats a lot faster. You won't cause the game to crash. And if you've ever noticed, if you have like millions of these or even a billion addresses, your computer's going to run sluggishly. So let's go ahead and shoot our pistol one time, see what happens. Alright, so here's our address. Found that in one scan. Let's right click it, find out what writes to it, and fire our pistol off. Alright, so let's stop this. Same procedure. Highlight it, show in disassembler, Control A for auto assemble, and do an AOB injection. And we'll call this ammo. Now this should work for every gun because I'm sure they all share this same instruction right here. So let's go ahead and we'll use a move statement, for example. We will move EAX into this value, 999. You don't want it too high. And hit assign to current table. Close that, and we'll call this ammo. We'll want to keep our tables neat. The neater they are, the less confusing they are. Alright, so let's see what happens when we shoot up one bullet. Alright, so that gave us a lot of ammo. It'll never decrease and it'll never increase because we're telling the game each time that instruction is called upon that we move this value into EAX. So let's go ahead and see if it works for our area disruptor, which is another gun. Now, as you can see, it works for that gun as well. That's pretty much all I have for this tutorial. It's very basic scripting. It works for every game. Every game has the same concept. Although I will retract that statement. Don't try using these types of scripts on Nintendo games and games older than that, like for Super Nintendo. You may wonder why your scripts are crashing. Maybe you think you're doing something wrong. It's because you're injecting an assembly code into an old school game and it can't handle it. So I don't recommend doing it on that. Anything from N64 all the way up to PC games that we currently have out today, go for it. But like I said, don't try it on the older versions. But like I said, that's pretty much everything that there is to basic AOB scripting. Focused on using that MOV statement, the add statement, the decrease statement. I mean, the worst possible scenario is your game's going to crash if you do it to the wrong instruction, and you can just relaunch it and tweak your script up a bit and see if you can't get it to work. That's pretty much all I've got. If you have any questions, leave a comment.